Okay. Me neither.
Good morning.
Morning, Laurie can't be here, so she's asked me to pop in and record it.
Good morning, Glory. My name is Natalia. We're expecting Ruby to join this call.
Hi, Natalia. I'm sorry, the audio is a bit crackly there. We missed that. Well, I did anyway.
Okay. Let's test my audio. How could you hear me?
Yep, that's much better. Yeah.
Wonderful. So, good morning, everyone. My name is Natalia. I'm registered migration agent with the Australian Immigration Agency. I'm expecting Ruby to join the call shortly. So
that sounds
we
great.
Have,
what we might do, Natalia, if it's okay, is just give it a few minutes. Often outdoorsy types, you can't trust them with two things: pens or watches. They're almost certain to embarrass themselves with either. So I spoke with Laurie last night, who is a little bit tied up this morning. She's probably going to be 10 or 15 minutes late. So I said that I'd tell you guys that joke that I know, and try and draw it out for that 10 minutes. But what in the past, when I've kind of jumped on and done a little bit of emceeing, I've just found that people are a few minutes late. And if we kind of just hang out for a bit at all. What I thought we might do, if it's okay with everyone, is just have a little bit of probably an acknowledgement of country. Might be a good thing to do, I reckon. And then maybe just a quick update from whoever's here. And there's a couple of things in terms of weather and probably the whole corona thing. I'm sure everyone's sick of hearing about that. And then I had jotted down that Craig from the Mountain Safety Council would go under the bus first. Does that work okay for you guys, or should we shuffle that around? And Natalia, you can be first speaker.
Look, I would like to add something to this order of events. Who will start? Who will introduce it ourselves? But let's agree all together. Now, that's few of us online. And if somebody doesn't speak, would you kindly mute your phones or microphones? So that will improve the quality of audio. Are we agreed on this? Okay.
I think that can work. Yeah.
Yeah. So I experienced from my previous consultations, if somebody doesn't speak, please mute yourself, and once you wish to speak, unmute, and we will discuss the topic or question. Okay.
Hugh, I was hoping to be able to talk in the early parts of the gathering, because I don't think I'll be here for the whole hour, unfortunately, with my schedule. So if that's possible, that would be great.
Let's make that happen. Yeah. So Natalia, that would be Craig speaking first, and then you on next, if that's okay.
Wonderful, thank you. I can see Ruby is joining us also. Hello, Ruby.
Hey, Ruby.
Ruby, would you kindly unmute yourself? You're muted. Yeah.
Okay, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hey, Ruby. Yeah, we can. How'd you be?
Good, thank you. How's everyone?
Not too bad. You've just missed our plan with a little P for how we're gonna spend the next few minutes. We're just gonna hang out till 10:05, if that's okay, for everyone to get on board.
Okay, sure.
Just have a very quick run through of some pertinent things that are happening in the industry, and then Craig's going to talk, and then you're on next.
Sounds good. Good. I can mute myself.
I think until sort of 10:05, we're really just having a fairly open forum gossip. seems to be actually much more productive than is given credit for. Yeah.
Okay.
I think in our very informal industry, it's a good fit. I think in others, it perhaps would be less so.
That's okay. That's not a problem.
What I might do very quickly is just acknowledge the country that I'm on. So I've sort of subbed in for Laurie at the last minute to be MC this morning, and I'm up in Katoomba, which I think was probably pronounced more like Gadumba, and it sort of means shiny falling waters, or waters cascading off a hill. I've heard a few sort of iterations of that, and this area is really kind of an interesting area. You know, the Gundungra, Wiradjuri and Darug were all kind of up here, and I often notice that acknowledgement of countries can become a little bit formulaic, and I really like to just actually stop and think for a second about the places that are close to where I am and why they're important. I was thinking about that this morning, and I think within about 400 or 500 meters of where I'm speaking to you guys this morning, there's a pass that we now call Devil's Hole that came up from the Megalong Valley onto the tops that was used by the Indigenous crowd for, I don't know how many thousands of years, tens, hundreds of thousands of years. So it's kind of, it's really cool to be able to have that grounding, that sense of place, that powerful name that's been around for a very, very long time and is still slightly bastardized, but still kind of used. What I thought we might do is just sort of have a couple of moments to just think about places that are close to you that might fit that bill as well. So, with an idea of where we are and why it's important, James, do you want to hit the go button on the recording, and we might open proceedings?
It seems to be recording already, so
outstanding. I'm so pleased that my waffle has been recorded.
go for it. I'll leave you to it.
Hey, I was going to have a bit of a ramble, but Craig Shephard's joining us from the Mountain Safety Collective, and I know his time is not completely his own, and so maybe I might cut and paste my ramble to the end and kind of let Craig get into it.
Well, geez, I don't want to miss out on that. So you could. No, but thank you, Hugh. I'm happy to be here and nice to see everybody. Thanks, Laurie, for inviting me to have a quick update from the Mountain Safety Collective. And yeah, I really appreciate this work we've had from Outdoor New South Wales ACT. It's been really great. It's opened a lot of doors. And I guess that's what I'm here to let you know, is to celebrate a little success we've had, is that we now have kind of a little bit of a working partnership with Parks New South Wales. They've recognized the Mountain Safety Collective and the work that we do, and they've injected some seed funding to help us along the way. So yeah, I think we're still kind of working through the details in terms of where our brand sits with their brand and how communications will work through the winter time. But yeah, working directly with Anthony Evans, and he's been really receptive, and had a good meeting with them earlier this week. And you'll hopefully see MSC a little bit more around the main range, things like our QR code at trailheads to encourage people to visit the report before going. Also trying to take advantage of their communications. If there was a big event coming up, if they could push that into the media for us. And I think what the MSC is excited about is just that recognition, and that working relationship gives us a little bit more weight. So now it's kind of evened the scales out between the states, because we've had that support from Parks Victoria for the last couple of years, and now Parks New South Wales is coming to the mix. So yeah, keep your eye out. That media release should be any moment now, so you kind of have the little advanced warning. But yeah, it might they're going to push it out through all their channels, and yeah, we're excited. The other thing I would like to say is that one of the things we're trying to work towards in New South Wales is an avalanche training center. So we do have one in Victoria that lived at Hotham last year, and that was made possible by doing fundraising through the membership, also through sponsorships and that sort of thing. And we're still working through it with Parks New South Wales about where it's possible to put one of those. It's just another big kind of fundraising thing that we'll work towards in the coming months and year. So if anyone has ideas out there of where we could find more funding for an avalanche training center for the main range, please let me know. Happy if anyone has any questions.
Of course I do. And sorry, I know Hugh, you're controlling it. I just need to ask a question. What are we looking for? What sort of funding, and are you looking for a location as well? Or yeah, what is it you're looking for?
Yeah, well, the location will be just an ongoing discussion with Parks New South Wales, because the location needs to be either Guthiga or Parish or Thredbo area, that sort of thing, something that's easily accessible by the public. So there are some logistical things going on, like for example, if it was at the top of Thredbo, that wouldn't necessarily be as accessible to all the public. And then I'm not across the exact figures that we're looking for. We're just working through that proposal, but we were really fortunate with the first one in Victoria that it was quite a discounted price. So I think it's going to be not as discounted the second time around. But I'm not 100% clear on those financials yet to say exactly how big the bill is.
Awesome. Okay, keep us informed.
Yeah. Any other questions?
What are the avalanche courses that you're doing in Vic look like at the moment, Craig? Because I imagine that you'll do something very similar in New South Wales.
The avalanche courses, all the courses actually until this time in Australia are recreational based. So for they call it avalanche skills training, and there's a number of different instructors that provide them. And then also in Australia, there are people offering avalanche courses that aren't necessarily tied to that Canadian. But one thing that's in the works right now is Australia is looking really professional level avalanche course, association operations level 1 course. And there's a divide between recreational courses and the professional level courses. And the professional level courses, I think, will really be great benefit MSc in particular, because it's really an observations and communications course, how to gather the information, where to gather the information, and how to communicate the information. If the course runs, it's a 6-to-1 ratio, so it'd be 12 students and 2 instructors. And so we're excited about that, because that'll be the first professional level course in Australia, in Charlotte Pass in September. I teach for the Canadian Avalanche Association when I lived in Canada, so I'm still current to teach for them. So I would be one of the instructors on that professional level course, and then they'll be bringing over another instructor from Canada to have that. So, and what that would do, that would, I think, would up the level of the skill set of local Australians. That would also then, the knock-on effect would be there'd be more opportunity to have people teaching the recreational courses, because after you have your level 1, and if you're an active membership under a professional member, someone like myself, then they can then pass on that knowledge. So I think it's a really good thing that's coming down the tracks.
What's the duration of both the recreational courses and the professional ones? Roughly, I don't mean to put you on the spot too much.
No, that's good. No, it's a great question. So the recreational one, the AST one, it's a 2-day course. It's one day one day in the classroom and one day in the field. And then there is something called an Avalanche Skills Training 2, which again, because not everybody wants to be a professional in the avalanche world, that level 1 course that we're going to teach in September, it can be quite dry, because it's quite meticulous and pedantic, and it's really specific about temperatures and layer identification and snow crystals and that sort of thing. And not everybody is looking for that. A lot of people want the recreational side. So there is an Avalanche Skills Training level 2, which is recreational, and that's a 4-day program. And then this professional level 1, it is a 7-day program. So it's on snow based, because you start your day off getting the weather before breakfast, then you finish your day doing a weather observation just before dinner, sort of thing. And then you're in the field all day. There is a little bit of classroom. The first day and a half can be classroom heavy, and then the rest of the days are out in the field, traveling, looking at terrain, evaluating terrain, looking at snow, evaluating snow. And then the testing, there's a companion rescue, or actually it's a professional level rescue test There's a snow observation test. There's a weather observation test. Those are all field. And then there's a written test at the end. So, yeah.
Sounds pretty all right. That's a really
yeah,
great
it's pretty all
program.
right. I definitely enjoy teaching them, and so I'm kind of excited to be able to do that again. And lots of friends in Canada that teach them as well. So I'm still just waiting to see who's going to come over to join me.
I've got a question. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, I mean, I know quite a few people in parks, Victoria, and land managers and also alpine resort management that don't actually have a lot of knowledge of the avalanche risk. So I think the professional course, would you be aiming to try and get a percentage of those types of people in, which would increase the management of recreational users, for instance, because if those types of people had the competency.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. No, it's a good question. And as you know, spaces are limited to 12 people. I'm not managing that side of the thing in terms of deciding who's taking the course and who's not. That's not where I am. I worked as a consultant for the Canadian Avalanche Association to determine whether it would be viable to hold this course in Australia. And then as far as who takes it, that would be absolutely great to have different people from different sectors. But I'm not sure how whether it's first come, first serve, or how they're allocating those 12 positions. But yeah, for sure. What I can say is that we've had interest from Victoria, more so recently from the SES, reaching out and contacting us and identifying that that's one of their areas that they would like to upskill in, and they've approached us, the MSC, to work with them to upskill some of their folks in Victoria there from the SES.
To get the transceivers and the wands for...
Yeah. And the way I look at it from the Mountain Safety Collective, what I've always looked at it is we're a public service. We're trying to get really accurate, good information out to the public to inform their decisions for backcountry travel. And the more information that's fed into a system, the more accurate we are. So the way I look at it too is the more people that are out there and that are trained and know what they're looking for, or can pass on information, the more on point all of our backcountry condition reports will be. So I've always seen it as growing the community, and it doesn't matter whether you're a government employee, a ski hill employee, or you have your own operation. If we all come together as industry, like we are here with the Outdoors New South Wales ACT, then we can help support the public so that they get out and have fun, but get home safe.
Yeah, it's fabulous, really good.
Yeah, thanks.
Any more questions for Craig while the interrogation's still happening?
I love it.
Oh, just it's not so much. Sorry, I'm late this morning. But yeah, if it's of interest to you, I just popped a note in the chat. But yeah, happy to promote it to Lots of Fresh Air audience. There's about 70,000 people in that who are all passionate, bushwalkers and hikers or backcountry skiers, that kind of thing. And yeah, so I promote snowshoe trips and walking. And I think there's a nice tie-in coming into the season now to actually help promote some of the, especially for those guys, maybe the more recreational courses that are on offer. But then also maybe with a little mention of, hey, if you're interested in the pro level, that's going to be coming as well.
Yeah, that sounds great. If we could connect after that, after this, I'd really appreciate that. And just an interesting thing, for snowshoers, actually in North America and Canada specifically, that unfortunately there's been one of a lot more incidents with snowshoers in the backcountry because there's a lot more people snowshoeing in the backcountry. So it's one of the user groups that Avalanche Canada has identified that they really need to reach out to. And as time has progressed, that's changed to reaching out to skiers and then snowboarders, and then it was snowmobilers, sledders, and then there's been a few really notable accidents with snowshoers. And in Australia, we're not only looking at avalanche because obviously avalanche is fairly, it's not as common, but it can be catastrophic when it occurs. But also we're just trying to educate with surface conditions. And I think that really ties into snowshoers. If they get into an area that's a bit too steep and a bit too icy, not prepared that way, they could still be susceptible to slide and fall injuries, that sort of thing. So And that's, yeah, so MSC looks at the weather, like whether it's whiteout weather conditions, the surface hazard, like slide for life, as I call it, and then avalanche conditions when they do exist. So yeah, is it Carol?
Yeah, I've just put my email in the chat. So yeah, feel free to grab it.
I will. Oh, thanks very much. That's great.
Yeah, no problem.
Well, unless there's any more questions for Craig, we might move over to Natalia and Ruby from the Department of Australian Immigration Agency.
Well, again, I appreciate everyone's time. I'm sorry I can't stay for the whole meeting, but I hope to see you all again, and maybe even in person sometime. That'd be nice.
Hopefully out with some snow underfoot, eh?
Yes, yes. Yeah, well, my home is now Jindabyne, so anyone down that way, come say hello.
Sounds great. Thank you very much, Craig.
Thank you all.
Great.
Take care.
Yeah, great chat.
Bye.
Thank you. All right. Thank you guys for a good, we had a good understanding of the type of work that you're doing and the industry that you are into. Can I ask, just to start off with, I mean, seeing that type of outdoor activities and the scope of you know, the activities that you do, what I understand you're having trouble getting people to work. So at the moment with the participants here, are they business owners, or are you part of a you know, an organization? Can you just quickly give me a rundown of who it is in the meeting today, or am I talking to government officials right here? Can you give me a bit of understanding?
I'll just answer for myself to give everyone else a little bit of time to think about how they'd like to phrase it. So I own a small business, the Blue Mountains Climbing School. I also work as a casual employee for some other employers as a guide or instructor, and I train a little bit in the vet sector as well, so training our next generation of guides. Some people that aren't here, there are definitely some large organizations that probably have many hundreds of staff that I think aren't represented today. And then our industry is made up of sort of not-for-profits and probably all of the people you just mentioned before.
So, for example, in your business, how many people would you be employing? Or
we have, I think, about 30 of us on the books. It would be extremely unusual for all of us to be out at the same time. It hasn't happened so far. But I think particularly our little sector of the industry is sort of very casualized. So it's quite usual that you know, you need to have a lot more staff on the books because they'll be engaged elsewhere. So might have to send off a dozen texts to be able to fill the trip that's coming up, sort of thing.
Okay, that's good.
And I think to give a slightly different perspective to Hugh there, and I totally agree with what he said, but some of the different part of the industry being some of the school camps, while it is still very casualized, it certainly has a peak season for 6 months of the year, centering around summer. And in the past, we've had a lot of people come in to the country, do the peak season here, and then go elsewhere during the other half of the year. So that we have seen a lot of people come into the country for work in the industry. Obviously, we don't need to highlight the obvious as to why we haven't had those internationals filling those positions over the last few years.
Yep, I understand.
It's probably the biggest lack of, or the biggest area that is having problem are the large operators, and that's your physical school camps. That's a building, structures, with high ropes and various things. They're struggling to get leaders, and operators that take schools outdoors, which might be based around a camping ground in a national park with 50 to 100 students doing a range of activities, or journey-based, where they're going on a journey, and there might be anything up to 160 kids from one school scattered around a national park somewhere, each with their own teachers, leaders, and so on. So some parts of our industry really require, particularly in February through to April, huge numbers of people.
What's the issue that you have at the moment in terms of immigration-wise or visa-wise? I understand the borders are now, we were shut at that time, and slowly starting to ease back and letting people in slowly. But what instigated the conversation today to talk about visas today?
I could probably help with that one, if you can hear me okay. Sorry for background noise here. So as everyone remembers, last week we touched on this topic, and we still are just scratching the surface. But Ruby, just to fill you in, we've got a lot of operators that are found employees that have applied for visas. They've been knocked back because they haven't had, what do they call it? The whatever, employing locals versus overseas. Yes. So the challenge that they've come up with is that they've been told by the government, you've got suitable applicants here, when in actual fact all the applicants that have applied here are not qualified to lead and be the chosen employment. So they've looked to the international market, which is a lot more mature than here in Australia. And if they're not having their visas denied, they're struggling in getting them to get the visas to get into the country. So that sort of sparked this conversation last week and this week. We're just trying to get as much information as we can. Needless to say, we're about 25,000 jobs short in the industry in this state and territory, so New South Wales and ACT. There is literally to non-existent oversupply of staff. As Hugh has identified, he's doing multiple roles, filling multiple gaps in the industry, as I think everyone on the screen is right now. And yeah, we've got to get to a point where we have capacity to drive more participation. At the moment, we're only flatlining on our participation because the capacity is not there. So how do we look at ways to bring more experienced people into the country and fulfill those jobs, because they're certainly not in the Australian workforce right now?
Absolutely, understand. That's really good background. Thank you very much for that, Laurie. So with that context, in terms of visas, I'll just give you a bit of an introduction of who I am. My name is Ruby, and I am the Managing Director for Australian Immigration Agency. So we are a private migration agency firm who help with all sorts of visas to bring people from overseas. We do corporate migration, we do business migration, we do students, we do family. So we do all types of visas. The only visas we don't do is refugee. Other than that, we across all types of visas. Lately, there's been a very high number of interest in terms of corporate migration because of the exact reasons why you've said borders are shut, and the industry, the economy in many areas are struggling with the skill shortages in Australia. So employers are getting a bit more comfortable and have just realized, some businesses have realized we really need international workers to fuel their businesses. So a lot of employers are open towards bringing people from overseas. However, the vehicle or the tool to bring them in is through visas, and visas, the policies and the legislation or the criteria for the visas haven't been relaxed, though they are still the same. Although the Prime Minister has introduced a few visas and given some relaxations in, the students now can work full time, and the COVID visas for no application charge. So certain provisions have been provided to help the businesses. The actual visa criteria are still the same. So when you say, they've been knocked back because of, having to find or to prove that no one in the local market can do the job, I know exactly what you mean. Probably the 482, the skill shortage visa, is probably what the employers are doing in your industry. So I'll go through a little bit more detail about this visa, and then I'll tell you exactly in terms of labor market testing what is required and how to present those applications so you will have more success with those applications. So employer-sponsored visas, there are about 7 different types of employer-sponsored visas, but the one that we will be concentrating today is probably the 482 visa. 482 is called a temporary skill shortage visa. There's 3 steps in this visa. First step is SBS, which is standard business sponsorship. Second step is the nomination. Third step is the visa application. SBS, or standard business sponsorship, is all about the business. Say, for example, Blue Mountain Plumbing School, you said, is the business that is going to sponsor. So you applying to the Department of Immigration for a status given to Blue Mountain School to be able to sponsor people from overseas to work in that business. So this application, when you make, it is approved for about 5 years. Okay, for the 5-year period, your business can sponsor anyone to come in and work for the company. So that application is the first step, which is called the standard business sponsorship. The second step is called the nomination application. So this nomination application is a very, very critical application, and it's a very it's all about the position. So this is where you need to the occupations in Australia or the different industries in Australia. They have got certain lists of occupations that need to be that are required in Australia, and they need to be on that list of occupation to sponsor. So I did look at the list before this meeting, and there are several sports professionals on the list. I'm not sure which occupation code that you've picked up, but the occupation code that would work for you is the sports coaches, instructors, and officials occupation code, which is the 452311. That's probably the occupation code that would suit in your instance, but there are several other occupation codes as well that we can look at depending on exactly what type of industry it is, and I mean what type of role it is. If it is a like managing the service center or managing the actual program for it, it depends on the actual role. So according to that role, we need to pick an occupation from the list. So this 482 visa is in 2 streams, short-term and medium-term stream. Short-term stream is where you can sponsor someone for a 2-year visa. Medium-term stream is when you can sponsor someone for a 4-year visa. And when you sponsor someone on a 4-year visa, there is a pathway to permanent residency for them. So again, coming back to the nomination application, it's all about the position. So you need to pick an occupation on the list that's suitable for your business. So you would show org charts, or you would show any way to provide evidence that there is a genuine position in the company for to fill. There's a vacancy in the business, and you're looking for someone to fill this job. So part of this nomination application is there is a step called LMT, labor market testing. So that's where you have to prove that there's no one in Australia to do the job. That's why you're bringing someone from overseas to do this job. So how you do this is by advertising a position in 3 platforms. It can be Seek. It needs to be a national level platform. Seek. It can be Indeed. It can be Jora. And there is a mandatory platform called the Job Active. It is a government one. It's for free. You must advertise in Job Active as well. Job Active is a little bit temperamental. You need to post an ad. It kind of drops out after 2 weeks or so, but you need to make sure the ad keeps going on. So this Job Active actually only came in after COVID because of they just want to make sure that Australians are also getting a fair chance of applying for these jobs. So these are the 3 platforms that you need to advertise, and the advertisement needs to be done for 4 weeks in the 4 months immediately before you lodge the nomination application. So 4 weeks immediately before, 4 weeks in the past 4 months immediately before you lodge the nomination application. And the outcome of that ad, you need to provide. So many applied, so many interviewed, no one was suitable. We found Joe Bloggs from Switzerland to do the job. And he's the most qualified, he's got the qualification, he's got the work experience to do the job. So that's how you present you satisfy the criteria of a labor market testing. And part of that nomination application, there is also something called as Skilling Australians Fund. It's a funding that you actually pay to government. It goes directly to the Department of Education, where if a business is turning over less than 10 million, you would pay $1,200 times the number of years you want to sponsor this person. If it's a 2-year visa, 1,200 times 2, you would pay, and that money goes directly, as I said, to the Department of Immigration. Basically, the purpose of this funding is to help Australians, to upskill them, to train them, so that we don't have to continue to bring people from overseas to fill the jobs here. So that's the purpose of this. So the SAF funding and the labor market testing are one of the main critical aspects of the nomination application. Once the nomination application is approved, the last step is the visa application. That's when the visa applicant comes in and goes, I have an employer, I have a job offer, an employment contract for 1 year, 2 years, whatever it is. Now give me a visa. And the visa applicant's criteria is that they need to have a formal qualification. And for each occupation, there are specific skill level that's required. And for the skill level that I mentioned to you before, the sports coaches and instructors, for that skill level, they require a diploma or a 3 years work experience will compensate if they don't have a qualification, and they must have 2 years of work experience. Okay, so they need to have a diploma and 2 years of work experience. If someone only has 3 years work experience, they don't have a diploma, the Department of Immigration will take the 3 years to compensate for their qualification, but when it comes to work experience, they don't have any. So that's how the Department of Immigration will look at it. Say, for example, if you had someone with 5 years of experience and no qualification, the Department of Immigration will take the first 3 years of their work experience to compensate for qualification and 2 years as their actual work experience. So they will satisfy that criteria. So in your, in the candidates that you interview, just one of the main questions you can ask in the interviews would be like, do you have a qualification and how many years of actual work experience they have after their qualification. Any work experience, so a lot of the training that you do, I heard, when Craig was talking, 1 day in the class and 1 day in a field. So that is not considered as work experience because they are working and studying at the same time. For the purpose of migration, work experience is only counted after you get the physical qualification in your hand. So for example, when you finish your bachelor degree, after any qualification after that is what is considered. While you're doing the apprenticeship or while you're doing what you do while you're studying is not considered. Okay. So that's the last step, which is where the visa application, depending on what country they come from, they need to be also able to do English test and satisfy health and character requirements. So basically police clearances and health checks might be required depending on the country. From an employer side, the obligations that an employer has to, after you've nominated this person, they've got the visa, they have arrived in Australia. From an employer side, your obligation is that to keep this person employed full-time in that role. So when it comes to, a lot of the occupations, the industry, you said it's 6 months, like school camps, you said 6 months, peak season, and 6 months is not. So it is a problem. So you have to make sure they're employed full-time for the whole period of their visas in Australia. If you only want to bring them here for 6 months, you can only apply for 6 months. You don't have to bring them on a full 2-year visa. You can only do the 6 months visa for them. However, I would recommend doing at least 1 year, because the way the Department of Immigration calculates the funding and everything is for 1 year. So you might as well do it for 1 year. And some of the employers that we worked with in this industry, like the peak season industry, if they have a different location in Australia, they can transfer them to a different location as well, as long as it's under the same company. They cannot go and work for a different employer. The entity that is paying them, the salary, must come from the same ABN number, cannot be a different ABN number. So you can use them across different businesses, but must be from the same entity. Okay. Say Hugh had a business and Jeff had a different business, you can't, share them between two businesses. Sponsor obligations. So you have to keep them employed and pay the market salary rate. Market salary rate is $54,000 plus super, or whatever it is that an Avalanche coach gets paid in the country, or sailing industry, whatever it is.
Sorry, Ruby, just a quick question. Is that related to the category that you're talking about, and does that vary on categories? Because I know a lot of them have applied for Recreation Officer, I think, as a category, and that tends to fit our industry probably a bit better than the sport one. Does that change, that salary level and requirements change?
The salary level is the minimum salary rate, which is the income threshold for any 482 visa. Any 482 visa, whatever the occupation you pick in there, even if it's an engineer or a doctor, the minimum somebody must be paid according to the income threshold in Australia on a 482 visa is 54, or to be precise, 53,900 plus super. Okay. Okay. So also, if for any reason you cannot employ this person, things happen, and the business no longer can afford to keep this person, as an employer, your obligation is to repatriate this visa applicant back to their home country on a one-way ticket back home. That's because the Department of Immigration doesn't want anyone unlawful in the country without a job. So it is the employer's responsibility to send them back home, unless the visa applicant is able to find a different employer who is able to take over the nomination and give them a job. They can stay. They get 90 days to find another employer. If they're unable to do that, it is the initial employer's responsibility to send them back home. Okay. There are several other sponsor obligations, but these are the main highlights of the sponsor obligations you need to remember. One of the other things is actually to make sure that they are employed in the position that you are nominating them. So if it is a recreation officer, that's fine. The position description of a recreation officer, according to the Australian Bureau of Statistics website, that's the Bible to see what is the position that you're going to nominate. So how I mentioned, there's a list of occupations. The list of each occupation in there is defined in the Australian Bureau of Statistics website. That's where they say how much qualification they need to have, how many years of experience they need to have, and what are the tasks and responsibilities of each of those occupations are. So they need to make sure that they are working in that particular occupation that you're nominating them for. They can be promoted, but as long as their duties remain the same, that's fine.
Ruby, quick. Obviously, time is of the essence, as it always is in fulfilling roles in the industry. I mean, what are the timeframes at the moment with the approval process from government? And I suppose I have a second part to that question. We heard last week of something called a labour agreement, which, I'm looking into how we possibly get our industry a labour agreement that, could be our hopefully our holy grail, but is it, and that's the question I'd like to pose to you today. What sort of timeframes are we looking with visa applications, and is that a good way to go?
Very good question, Laurie. Thank you. The processing time for 482 visas is anywhere between 1 to 3 months. If a business is regularly sponsoring people, and depending on the size of the business, if it is going to be, over 100 employees and things like that, you may even be able to get an accredited sponsorship. Basically, it's a accredited sponsorship means a business that is got a lot of sponsorships, and they need a lot more applicants. So currently the accredited sponsors, some of the accredited sponsors we work are in the healthcare industry. So they need a lot of nurses or doctors, for example. And we have a lot of mining companies that we work for that have engineers and welders and things like that, that get accredited sponsorship status. Basically, with that accredited sponsorship status, you get nominations approved overnight. So basically within 24 hours you lodge, it's automatically, it's almost like auto-generated. So the LMT process and everything, obviously we do everything as required. We have to still satisfy the labor market testing, SAF funding, everything we do, but the Department of Immigration approves them straight away. So accredited sponsorships are something that I can look at if your business is eligible for you. But if you're not an accredited sponsor, the sponsorship the nomination can take anywhere between 1 to 3 months. There's one more visa option that I want to talk about before we go into the labor agreement. There is a visa called the 494 visa. So the only difference with the 482 and the 494 visa is 494 visa is for 5 years. The requirement from the visa applicant is they need to show a skill assessment and 3 years work experience. So for 482 visa, they only need 2 years experience, no skill assessment. They just need to show a relevant qualification and 2 years experience. Whereas for 494 visa, which is for the regional area companies, regional area businesses. So you said all the businesses are in the regional area. The employees you're going to, so when you're interviewing them, if someone has 3 years experience and a qualification, they might be eligible to apply for the 494 visa. With that visa, they can get a 5-year visa instead of a 2 or a 4-year visa. So that's a better option. But again, it's a case-by-case basis. As you get employees, when someone apply, you run it past and we can verify which one will be the best option for them. Labor agreement. Labor agreement is a very good option. However, labor agreement, basically, in simple words to put it, it is a negotiation process. For an occupation, say, for example, you can't find abseiling person on the list of occupations. So the occupation is not on the list and you want to sponsor this person. In that instance, you would go through the labor agreement process where it is an agreement from a business or an organization like yourself, Outdoors, New South Wales and ACT, will negotiate with the Department of Immigration directly and say, we need 200 employees. You can ask exactly what the positions you want them to be and how many in what location. So you need to say position, how many, what location. So you need to negotiate with the Department of Immigration. We need about 100 or we need about 200 employees. And for those employees, we need them to have, so say, for example, we do this for Islander employees. Their English is not good, so you're going to negotiate with the Department of Immigration. This normal category or requirement of the visa is the same, but you're going to negotiate with the department saying, the employees that we're going to apply for, can you excuse them from satisfying the English requirement? Can you excuse them if they don't have 2 years of work experience? So it is a negotiation process that you have specifically negotiated for your industry, okay? And that particular labor agreement, when you lodge with the Department of Immigration, it takes about 6 months for them to process. So we can do that for you. So to do that, it is quite an involved application. You need to show evidences of how many members you have, how long you've tried to recruit these people, and a lot more evidences you need to provide to the Department of Immigration. Once they have all of this information, the Department of Immigration will negotiate and grant you, and this is granted to you for 5 years. So the labor agreement lasts for 5 years. And during this process, once you have it, the tool you use to bring people up from overseas is still the 482 visa. You still need to do the 482 visa for them, but you've just got a better negotiation, better chance with the Department of Immigration because you already have a labor agreement negotiated. So they don't have to satisfy the criteria as the other 482 applicants. Okay, the processing time is still going to be less than the normal standard 482 processing time. It will be about a month or less than that. And you can even negotiate an accredited sponsorship with the labor agreement for that position. Okay, the key is that you need to find occupation that is not on the list. If the occupation is already on the list, the Department of Immigration is go, well, you have the 482 option. Why do you want a labor agreement? You know what I mean? If the position is not on the list, that's when we go for the labor agreement process.
Ruby, I think Jeff's got a question. If we can interrupt you to bombard you with a couple, because I've got a couple as well.
Sure. Yeah, question and comments, I guess, but that stuff around labour market. So for over a decade, we've clearly, as an industry, gone, well, the ABS data and also the Australian-New Zealand industry categories haven't worked for this industry. Now, we're very aware of that. So as an industry, we've actually got some reports that pull out our actual numbers and what does occur in the industry and why those labour market details aren't relevant. But what I'm hearing is a lot of what is in place is around the individual employers. Yet if the industry body was to pull together that data, which, as I said, we know exists, we've got the reports, we've got the documentation around that. If the industry body was able to pull that together and provide that information, then I'm imagining that could be usable by any employers that are within the industry that are looking to use that potentially as a part of labour market agreement. I don't know, but we've got the information there.
Yeah, unfortunately, the labour market testing must be advertised. Any information like industry group like yourself can be added as a letter, additional letter to the Department of Immigration. They will certainly carry weight. However, you must do the 3 ads and provide an outcome letter of that as well.
Ruby?
I guess the other question I had, so the labour market stuff, I think we can pull that together as an industry. We've already got the information, so I can point you at the right direction if need be, Laurie. I'm sure you've already got it anyway. But the other question I had was around qualification. Now, you indicated diploma as a minimum level, yet the industry as a whole, let's say certificate 4 is actually more relevant to our industry in what that we're doing. Does that come into play that we've got a different qualification level that's probably more relevant for the staff we're looking for? Yes, we are bringing in some with higher level qualifications. That does occur. But often the skill we're looking for can be closer to that certificate 4 level. And how does that potentially play out, considering that sometimes it's that technical skill which is not necessarily around the world, not necessarily recognised with formal qualifications. Now, yes, we do have them here in Australia and a couple of other countries that have outdoor rec, outdoor ed, outdoor leadership at that level. But there is a significant level of our workforce, as you just heard earlier, have a range of skills courses grouped together over a number of years to make them relevant in the industry?
It depends on the particular occupation you're going to pick. And not all of them have diploma level required. Some do say certificate 4 is okay. So as long as it is, and even if there is no qualification, if they have enough work experience to compensate, that should be fine as well. Sorry, Nat, did you want to add something, Nat?
Yeah, I would like to add something. Ruby very well explained the long-term employer nomination visa options. So obviously, from the business perspective, you will look for an employer who will commit for 1-2 years, as long as possible. We do understand. But I also want to mention one more visa subclass, which might be useful in some exceptional circumstances, subclass 400. That's temporary work in Australia for highly skilled professionals. Let's say you can't fill this position in Australia. You've been looking for let's say for an instructor, and this instructor has a really narrow specialization in something, and you cannot source this instructor in Australia. You have to bring this instructor from overseas. Okay, so this instructor possibly is not interested in a long-term position, but he is happy to come and help you out, maybe to teach your staff, to give good training. So this particular visa doesn't require so deep sponsorship. That's required business support. So business has to explain, look, we're inviting this person for this particular reason. This is only temporary stay, generally up to 3 months, in certain circumstances up to 6 months. You don't have to pay a Skilling Australian Fund. You don't have to lodge nomination. Everything will come in a one-step process, whereas and business and visa applicants providing all documents at once. Okay, this is the short-term solution for the people who are not interested in migration, but happy to contribute to your organization.
Natalia, is that the one that's got that salary cap? It's quite a high salary cap. Is that correct?
No, that's not Global Talent Independent. That's other visa. That's, yes, very amazing visa, permanent residency. This is only temporary work. I believe you might go across some very highly skilled people, and I believe some people do not want to migrate, and for some reason don't want to commit, but they can contribute, and that will be win-win situation. So what Ruby just explained, she explained employer-sponsored visas. Obviously, this is the good visas for the business, because visa applicant committed for 1-2 years, 3 years time to work for this business. But sometimes highly skilled can come on a temporary visa with business support.
So hypothetically, Natalia, just using what we saw earlier as an example, just say we've got some Avalanche courses running over a 6-month period, and there's not a lot of Avalanche people in Australia. Therefore, you could have this this temporary one, this short-term professional temporary one, for bringing someone in from Canada, for example, to be running that course in conjunction with our local people. Or alternatively, we could have a high rope specialist who might be providing training to staff at a centre for a short period of time. And
you understand me correctly. Yes.
There is no income requirement. There is no labor market testing. There's none of that. So basically, it's a really good application. The processing time is 1 to 3 months as well. And over COVID, we did a lot of these 400 applications where in the construction industry, in the mining industry. Borders were shut, but they really needed these individuals to come and put some machinery together, or look after some the road works that were happening, or whatever it is. We got a lot of them on the 400 visas, and the key thing is you need to show this is not ongoing employment for them. It's only a specialized work, short time. This is the agenda for their work here, the period in Australia, and then off they go, do their job and go.
Certainly seems to be a good fit for our industry in terms of its seasonality, and also in terms of the current trough we've got in staff. Might help us to upskill a little bit for the next period, so we can stand on our own feet, whilst at the same time we get to learn all of the cool stuff that they do internationally, and maybe we get to brainwash them a bit as well, so they go home and take some of our good practices with them. Yeah.
May I ask a question? As an organization or individual businesses, are you working with any recruiters? Anybody assisting you to source local labor, or how do you find your staff?
I think probably the larger businesses are, certainly in terms of the smaller ones. If I haven't climbed with them, then it's probably just not happening. But I think I'm in an enviable position where I can be fairly choosy in who we take on. But I think for the larger businesses, they will be advertising on Seek and things like that. And I know there's been some interaction in the past with recruiting agencies.
We're also working.
I'm sorry, Laurie.
That's right. We're also working with the Department of Education in the workforce development team to try to, because we went to them and said, we've got thousands and thousands of jobs, but we can't seem to find anyone. So they're actually plugging us into agencies in regional areas to try to make the best of the ads that they're putting out as well.
Okay. The reason why I ask, because if you're targeting migrants, highly skilled, or who can really contribute to the business for a long term, because they have to be committed on the visa and the sponsorship, I believe you have to be educated first what to ask for, with what positions. So prepare yourself first. As an agent from our side, we can offer our assessment for each visa applicant. You don't have to commit until where, as agents, we will give you a green light. Yes, this person is the right person and eligible for this particular class of visa. You are, as a business, eligible for this. You can go and proceed, move forward, go ahead. So we're obviously here to help you out, to do the right things, so you will do not waste your time and money, and business will progressively run.
That's fabulous. Thanks, Natalia. I'm conscious that we're just over 11. This session's recorded and goes out to all of the ONSW and ACT members. So everyone will get to see this, and we can make sure that your details get sort of passed on so people can make touch either directly or through Laurie. I need to skip out now, and I think we could probably stop recording. If people wanted to hang around and have a gossip, I think that's I'm all for it. But unfortunately today I kind of can't. I can't be that guy. I've got something else that I need to scoot off to. Just thanks again to Natalia and Ruby for their time, and obviously a great deal of thought and effort's gone into. Probably everyone looks a little bit like their horizons have just been a bit broadened. So I think we've probably all got a bit of thinking to go away and do, and then you might guys might get inundated with questions again in the future.
Great, thank you. You've got to run. I just want to say thanks for stepping in, and obviously holding. I've just been running a breakfast event. Yes, that was a train, in case you didn't hear that. Quite timely. I'm on the banks of the Nepean River at the moment. We just finished a Parks and Leisure Australia event, which was amazing, around International Women's Day, and instilling how we get more women involved in parks, leisure and outdoor recreation. So yes, Kara's dancing. Yeah, it was a great conversation. We had some amazing women, and I would love to give you a bit more of a summary on that, but I know everyone's pressed for time. Really appreciate you attending. Another Connect and Share. Don't forget happy hour at 4 o'clock this afternoon. And next week's Connect and Share, very exciting. We have Reconciliation Australia coming along to talk about reconciliation action plans. So if you've been considering about doing your own or just want to know more, that's a great time to do it. And a quick plug for the event that's just prior to that, which is the 9 a.m. session. Now, this one is at cost. God forbid, we actually do charge for things. But this one is because we have an expert lawyer that's coming in and talking to us about the case law that is really important for us to know about, which is employers versus contractors. It is that every member gets $10 off, but it's a $42 charge. So make sure you get your members discount code to enter in and get your $10 off. But I can't stress enough that this is the sort of stuff we need to know about to protect us going forward, because I know there's a lot of contracting going on, filling those gaps, because we need visa people in to fill those roles on a more permanent basis. So guys, thank you again. I will bid farewell as I take up the mountains and do a bit of a trek today, but thank you for your time, and again thanks to Hugh for standing in and holding the fort for me. And thanks to Ruby and Natalia for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you very much, guys. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Right. James, you want to just stop the recording for me?